Shannon Terry joins us now from On3.com. Shannon, what's up? How are you, man?
How you guys doing?
Well,
I mean,
it's kind of crazy.
This whole Nico thing is going to be studied by everybody: lawyers, agents, family members, athletes, students,
Coaches, ADs,
everybody. This is crazy. And it's funny. I feel like we talked with you about this at y'all's event a couple of years ago, and you kind of said that this was headed down this path.
Yeah, this is inevitable, and there's so many things to think about and look at. I think there's two core fundamental points here. I think the first, two things can be right and wrong at the same time. I think the first thing is the system is broken. There aren't guardrails around it. No one really knows how to act. Everyone knows that everyone believes that these athletes deserve to participate in the revenue and all the things, but there's no guardrails and there's no rules. And so that is the problem. The second point that is obviously very important here is that from the Nico count, what they did is categorically wrong. Being someone who's either played sports or been in sports my entire life, there is a balance of, I and team and personal, versus what's best for the team. And I don't think, just kind of knowing the Polynesian culture, I don't know if it's Polynesian, but the culture of that relationship, the strength of the father figure there. I just think there were a lot of outside influences that were well beyond Nico's scope, to manage. It's a really unfortunate situation, and I applaud Josh Heupel, for not letting it go on any longer.
Yeah, Don and Slay both pointed that out, the relationship between father and son in a Polynesian heritage that Don experienced with Tua and his dad on a firsthand level. And yeah, I mean, in that world, you just don't question pops.
It's admirable. It's just it's a situation, and we have an inefficient market. Like right now, quarterbacks, are commanding extraordinary value on the open market. That's just the facts. I think what you've got to decide though is where's the line between what I'm making, how close is to a top end number versus what's acceptable. And I think that negotiation just was never really realistic from what we were told. Our valuation on Nico for a long time has been $2.5 million. Okay. Now that puts him in the top 10, puts him at number 8 of all quarterbacks that will play this year. I think that's fair. The rumor on the street he's looking for $4 million. And he probably could get it. It's the question is, should he get it from a short-term perspective? Because he and both Tennessee have made so much investment in each other. It just didn't seem like a smart move to hold that hostage. One last point. Negotiations, active negotiations, and this type of thing is going on at every school right now. This Nico's situation is public. It's polarizing. You've combined both passion and business to perhaps the most passionate fan base, which is like combining ammonia nitrate and nitroglycerin. By itself, it's fine.
There's no chemistry on today's test, Shannon.
and it blows up, and that's what's happened here.
Shannon Terry with us from On3.com. So how difficult will it be for him to find that kind of money at this point in the calendar?
I don't think this point in the calendar, it definitely impedes him to some degree because, a lot of schools, a large number of them have already made their decisions and you've read the internet, the schools that are out there that are quarterback, shopping right now. And then there's some interleague rules. If the SEC didn't have the SEC rule, we would see all hell break loose. I mean, I can imagine, I can imagine if the SEC didn't have its rules, what would be going on with the Arkansas quarterback right now? Because that kid has some serious talent. And I know he's coveted heavily by a lot of schools. Answering your question though, I think he'll end up somewhere, and I'm sure he'll end up, probably he's not going to take a pay cut here, would be my guess. But is this the right the brand? If you're a GM now, you're looking at this, it definitely is going to throw up a lot of red flags. And so you worry about his development, you worry about the amount of time he has to work with another system, another coordinator. God, there's just so many factors here, and none of them look that great for Nico.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting because we just got into a pretty heavy discussion with somebody calling in and saying, okay, Slay, we know Slay bleeds orange like no other, right? And so the caller had just said, okay, well, if that were you back in the day, like, would you, as loyal as you are to Tennessee, there's no way, would you leave for that kind of money? And Slay's like, of course, like everybody would. But it does bring the question of, and you kind of mentioned that this is going on at every school, but it brings the question up of how often does this happen? Does this mean that the loyalty is gone in college football? I don't think it's that far. It's just a different age, right? But you've been on the kind of cutting edge of knowing that this was all coming. So I just want your take on kind of that topic of it.
It's going on more than you would think. It's going on at every program, all over the place. And Nico is a polarizing player in this regard. It's going on everywhere. And these athletes, they want to be paid what they're worth, but there's no system in place that truly defines what they're worth. Like we calculate the On3 NIL valuation, and it analyzes all the money for a position in a nationally ranked player, and it comes up with a composite around that. However, all it takes is one school that has a position in need and a little money to break that valuation. And so it's a constant moving target. So at some point, look, there are many times that we all have opportunities to go somewhere else to make more money in things of life. Okay. This isn't unknown, but at some point in time, you have to look beyond kind of the short-term trajectory and think about this in a much bigger scale. If I'm a free safety or a safety or some other position where the money on the backside isn't so large, it's different for an athlete than, to me, at a high profile, high paid position like quarterback. That's my view of it. And I see Ron shaking his head there. But I want to be clear. Like, I come from a poor background. This isn't, there's nothing about, where I came from that this wouldn't have been tempting to me as well. But parents or people have to step in place. If you're a high profile in the background, that's a factor. That's a much different factor than I'm going to go get mine if I'm a running back or a free safety or something. That's my only take on going for the money.
That's a great point. Quarterback's just different. It's different in the NFL. Different. It's different in college. So you guys, in terms of your consumers, and in terms of our consumers, I think people will get there where they understand that this is a business now, and these guys are professional athletes getting paid lots of money, especially at the quarterback position. What are you seeing from your consumers in terms of like how they understand this now? Because it's hard for college football fan to take the fan hat off, where maybe it's not so hard when you're a professional fan.
College fan base is pissed off. They're pissed off because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to follow it. Everyone, I think, is fine with this being a business. And this is a monster business. This is multi-billion-dollar business. And it's only going to go up because there's still so much more inventory and the rights are still discounted for what the viewership is. So we're going to see a 3X. It's going to continue for a long period of time. And the athletes need a big chunk of that. The fans have had enough, though. The fans don't know what to expect. Things like the spring transfer portal, doesn't make sense in a lot of ways, but there are ways that it does make sense.
Right.
I'm not going to make my two deep. I'm not going to get to play. I want to go somewhere else to have a better opportunity. Makes sense, right? So you can play it. There's going to have to be a governing body. There's going to have to be collective bargaining for the athletes, revenue share, and some of the power players are going to have to step up and carve this thing out and run it like a true business with true leadership, true revenue sharing, and true guardrails. And what I hate this situation for college sports. All my friends, I hate it. I'm done with this, I'm tired of it and all the things. What I do like about it is these events are so polarizing. I think they get us to a solution much faster. I think every one of these events are a positive in the sense that we will get to where we need to be at a much faster pace. And the last point on this, I'm tired of everyone saying, go back to the way it was. Okay, stop it. Okay, these athletes deserve chunks of this money because the money now is so disproportionately more than the value they received from their scholarships and being a part of a program. The economics don't work in the old days. So set it up and pay them. It's just the fact. It's different, but different can be good.
It just has to be.
It can't be good.
It just has to be fixed. There has to be guardrail. I mean, what do you think? Is it something like, should they just go the almost NFL model?
Yeah, for
contracts
sure.
and free agency
collective
and
bargaining
collective,
agreement.
all of this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what you've got Title IX and you've got employee rights issues, but at the end of the day, college football and college basketball need to carve out, form their super conferences, collective bargain, set up, and then distribute profits back to the schools. Now, whether private equity gets involved and owns part of these schools, super revenue, i.e. football, new business, then that's a whole different discussion for another day. But that's the facts. That's what's got to happen. It's got to happen sooner than later.
Shannon, do you think we'll get to licensed attorneys, agents, whatever it may be, being able to do the negotiating? And how do you get out of the backroom back channel calls?
It's not happening until there's a governing body. Yeah. It's not going to happen until the whole system is broken and set up again. And you would think the SEC and the Big Ten hold so much leverage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones that are going to have to lead this, in my opinion. I don't think Congress can do anything. If Congress gets involved, you're going to see athletes completely misrepresented and end up on the short side of the stick. Fact. And because all the lobbying that has been done by Congress has been done at the NCAA level, where you'll have power players representing the schools come in, and then you'll have the polo swimmer, equestrian rider from North Dakota State come speak on behalf of athlete, revenue. You don't have, it's been comical the way it's been. And look, I'm making light of it, but we'll get there. I don't think the game suffered this year. I definitely think there was some apathy in the fan base. I think this spring we've seen a ton of apathy. We saw a lot of empty stadiums on spring games. I know the format was different, but ratings could suffer next year. Fans are pissed off.
That's interesting.
Shannon,
Terry,
I feel like they want no.
It'll take a minute.
No, because you got all these loyal fans
in the South. The South is different than.
Shannon Terry created Rivals, sold it, created 24/7 Sports, sold it. Now he's got On3.com. I know when you guys created these valuation, you got some pushback from fans, like how do you know this guy's rated this or worth this? And And do you still get that? Do you still answer those questions now?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's both. If something is working or if something is interesting, there's two sides of argument. There's this sucks and this is great. We did this. We obviously did this because it's interesting and it's fun, and why not go lead? Our inspiration was a Zillow score. Go on and see how much your house is worth or one that you're wanting to buy. But for us, the thing where we cracked, which was interesting, was we realized that all the NIL money was actually just pay for play. There wasn't much money from the Gatorades and the Nikes in it, and so we started, because we had a wide reporter network, just tracking what schools were paying kids, and we built models based on it. We knew, okay, if this kid's the number one running back in America and he's getting these offers, that maybe that's the value point for that ranking. And so it's worked. These athletes have used it. Schools have used it. I think it does a really good job for the top, say, 300 or 400 high school players and college players. Transfer portal is something that we're going to continue. It's something that we adjust. And I look forward to the day where contracts are reported, and that can go into the model. And I that's going to happen someday.
It's interesting how, Shannon, when you guys started On3.com, I mean, this was just beginning to happen, and you guys had the forethought to kind of sense that and to go in that direction. And, whether people question, Nico being worth $2.5 million or not, I think it is fascinating and interesting, that bit of information that you guys provide.
We do our best. We take some bullets, and that's what makes this fun. I mean, think about it. You guys, we are talking sports, and you would think with the vitriol sometimes that literally, we've produced some pharmaceutical that killed grandma. It's when you think about it, it's true. And I don't know. It's gotten to a point too where I'm not sure any fan base likes me. I used to be. I'm an admitted Alabama fan. I'm certainly not as passionate about it as I used to be.
We'll forgive you.
And the Alabama fans don't like me now. Tennessee fans, don't like me. And, I do nothing but say great things about Josh Heupel, who I think is a, terrific man and, a really good coach. I don't know. It's fun. And I am unbelievably excited to get to work in sports. So it's hard to make me mad by giving a mean tweet at me. Like, I get to work in sports.
The responses are great, though, Shannon. I love
God, I'm butchered. Butchered.
ST, so when you were playing basketball at Lipscomb, let's say you're making, I don't know, $200,000 from Lipscomb, and Belmont called you in the offseason of your sophomore year and said, hey, we'll give you $400,000. You going?
100%. I didn't have a ceiling. That was my point. My point was that was it for me. So 100%. Nico's situation is different because Nico's playing a 10-year, 12-year long-term game.
Yes.
But as far as the rest of these players out there, they are absolutely in so many ways, doing the right thing, going to a better opportunity. I mean, they're going to be making more money than they're ever going to make. In a lot of cases, the majority of these kids are going to be making more money than they're ever going to make in their.
Yes.
And the emotional and the mental strain this is going to cause, there are no words. Athletes already have an incredible time dealing with the emotional, worth, finding their worth after they play sports. Mm-hmm. And now, instead of having these pro players where that's been an issue, because I've talked to them, you guys have all talked to all these, what am I worth now? I don't even know. I used to be this, and now I don't even know what I'm doing. Well, guess what? That whole same depression problem is going to now happen 4 years or 10 years earlier, 4 years earlier. That's right. That's going to create so many problems with these kids. They're making $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year. They're going to come to On3 and say, hey, I really want to work on your social team. I'm going to say, yes, we would love to have you here. And the starting salary is $60,000.
Yeah.
And, they're going to go work for the banker. They're going to go to Pinnacle. Pinnacle's would love to put you in our relationship management training program. we're so excited to extend this offer to you. You've beat out these 2 Belmont students because we know you're an athlete. We know you work hard. We know you're ready for this point in your career. Here's $75,000. Oh, and also we don't have a clothing allowance, and we don't have a meal table, and
no gas.
we don't have an Uber service.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do?
Yes. Yeah, you preaching, Shannon. This was, when I first got hired here, I don't know how many times I shared the story of the transition back to reality. Regardless of how much money you made, whatever it is, you get dropped back into a world of reality where you're normal and you don't have that stage or that platform. It's different, man. It's different, dog.
Shannon Terry with us on 3HL from on3.com. You can check them out. And Shannon, so is Josh Heupel kind of a pioneer in a sense in that they walked away from Nico? And I know it's more than just him, but among his colleagues in the coaching world, now there's precedent for a guy that thinks about holding out. Here's what Josh Heupel did. This is exactly what we're just going to follow that path.
I'm telling you this, there have been a lot of kids holding out. So I'm sitting here listening right now. It's been going on, brother, and it's happened. It's happened a bunch. Y'all just don't know it. And it's been getting resolved very late in the game. Heupel is a pioneer in doing this. And I think enough was enough for all the reasons. And I don't know all the inside. I haven't spoken with him yet. I will at some point in time. Enough was enough, and he stood up and he did what was right.
While we've got you, who's going to be the next Lipscomb basketball coach, Shannon?
It's a good question. You know, there are a lot of good candidates out there. You know, some have Belmont backgrounds. You know, Philip, go that path again. I do know this. I played 2 years with Philip Hutchison. He's a brilliant guy. I think he's like 99 percentile LSAT. You know, he could have done anything he wanted to do in the world. He will pick a Philip guy. So I have no idea what he's thinking. I certainly would never recommend any candidates to him. I wouldn't go try to pull someone from Texas or someone from Alabama that's your number whatever. He will find a Philip guy that fits what he's wanting to do there. I have no idea who it is. But let's talk about, where are you now in small college sports?
Yeah.
We had 4 1 seeds in the Final Four. Look at what Belmont has lost over the past couple years as far as talent. How do those programs compete? They don't have the money. They're creating some players and they get plucked away. I would not want to be in that situation.
Mm-mm.
Man, Belmont players all over the national landscape this year doing well. And
I would love to coach Lipscomb, though. I've always thought how I would do it. Slay, what do you think about this for a small college? I'd go get me 3 6'2" combo guards.
Yeah.
Okay, straight dogs.
Yeah.
They got a wart. They can't really they're not the guy that's going to end up at Louisville or Kentucky. Short, handle, not afraid to shoot. You know those guys.
Yeah.
You played with them.
Yeah.
I'd go get 3 of those guys. I would go get me a 6'7" shooter, stiff as a board.
Yeah. Flat out stroke it.
He'd make everything he shot.
Yeah.
And I'd go get me some big guy that could block people out.
Yeah. Yeah, protect the rim and let him go. He can even be undersized, but if he's a hell of an athlete, we're going to run with him.
Yeah, that's what I'd do.
You guys have it figured out.
We just let it go.
That's it.
3 combo guards. Start there. I love that.
Yeah.
We made Nate Oates look like a snail.
Right. We're getting after it.
Yes.
Shannon, thanks for hopping on, man. Really appreciate it. Know you guys are doing great things over there at on3.com. Appreciate you, brother.